turn in your Bibles, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 24 through verse 27. And notice here the word of the Lord. By faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. For he looked to the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. I want to read those same 3 verses in the Message Bible. Here's how it reads. By faith Moses, when grown, refused the privileges of the Egyptian royal house. He chose a hard life with God's people rather than an opportunistic, soft life of sin with the oppressors. He valued suffering in the Messiah's camp far greater than Egyptian wealth because he was looking ahead, anticipating the payoff. By an act of faith, he turned his heel on Egypt, indifferent to the king's blind rage. He had his eye on the one no eye can see, and kept right on going. I want to talk today simply from the subject, comfort is overrated. Comfort is overrated. I don't know where we get this notion that our whole purpose in life is to try to get to a comfortable place, because comfort is overrated. Whatever happened to identifying with the fellowship of Jesus' sufferings? See, everybody wants to be with him in the glory of the resurrection, but there is a fellowship of his suffering. I mean, to be a Christian doesn't mean that you just get saved and you live happily ever after. You know, I'd rather tell you the truth up front than to give you an illusion and then you discover that what you thought was so was not actually so. And so that there is no great intrinsic value in just our being comfortable. I hope that's not your goal in life, is just to be comfortable, because comfort is overrated. I hope you realize Moses saw that comfort was overrated. He grew up in the king's palace, but he, as an act of his own will, chose to suffer affliction with the people of God than to keep living a lie, than to deal with something that was artificial, that was an image, that was maintaining a reputation, as opposed to being authentic to who God made him to be and what he called him to do. It is interesting that researchers at the University of California at Berkeley, they did an experiment some time ago that involved introducing an amoeba into a perfectly stress-free environment. And that's what you'd call a comfort zone. But they put the amoeba into a stress-free environment where it was the ideal temperature, it had optimal concentration of moisture, and it had a constant supply of food. And so it was the kind of environment where no adjustments were necessary whatsoever. And you would imagine that that would be one happy little amoeba, but it wasn't. Because all of the things that would have given the amoeba an ulcer or high blood pressure, they were gone in this ideal atmosphere. But oddly enough, the amoeba died. It died under ideal conditions with no stress in the environment. Because obviously there is something that all living creatures, even amoebas, that demands challenge, something about life. And the way that we require food and air for survival, we also require change, we require adaptation, and we require challenge, whether you realize it or not. Our life demands it. If it didn't, you'd just die of boredom. You'd die of boredom. Can you imagine a television program that didn't have any challenge in it? Why do you think reality TV is so popular? It's because of the drama. There must be conflict. Lives are boring without conflict. Now, I know you say that I can do without the conflict. I'd love to do without the drama. But somebody is going to bring some spice in your life. And, you know, teachers that teach, they don't remember the little quiet child that sits there obedient. The one that they remember is little Johnny, who just keeps on running his mouth, whispering, passing notes, chewing gum, tapping somebody else, distracted. That's the little joker that they're going to remember. They remember little fast Helen, who's up out of her seat again, who's over here doing some playing with her hair, putting on lips gloss, painting her nails, doing all, and they have to tell them, sit down, be quiet. Those are the children that give you the most trouble. They're the ones that make you cry when it's time for promotion. You remember them, the very ones that bring the drama and the conflict, that give you the hardest time. That's the child that you miss the most. Isn't that amazing? It seems as though we were not designed just to live in chill mode all the time. I know that we need to visit there. We do need to visit there. You do need to rest. You can't just stay in high stress drama all the time. You do need a reprise from all of that. But comfort alone kills us. Comfort alone kills us just like it killed the amoeba. Comfort alone kills us, because life would be so boring without any challenge or anything to come to us, you know, if we were just constantly in a comfort zone. Moses chose to suffer affliction with the people of God. He didn't have to. He didn't have to identify with an oppressed people, but he did. He did it volitionally. And because he did so, it put him in history. He never would have made the Bible had he not chosen to identify with afflicted people and to suffer. He chose to suffer affliction. And we run from suffering at any cost. If you do anything worth doing, it's going to produce some suffering in you. If you don't know the suffering of study, you'll never know the joy of graduation. Anything that is worth having, anything that is worth celebrating is going to involve some pain, some discomfort, some challenge, some drama, some things that make you get up in the morning and say, I don't feel like dealing with this today. I can't tell you the number of times that I wake up on a Sunday morning and say, I ain't going today. You know, you have to have some challenge. You got to have something that you're going to have to press through. Do you think that you feel just like getting up and going to the office every day, going to work every day? There are times that you have to press your way. You have to suffer through it. You have to just get out, just make yourself uncomfortable. You have to get out of the comfortable place and get uncomfortable to even go and do what you got to do. But comfort is honestly overrated, because there is so much limitation that comes to your life in the comfort zone. I want you to think about, I just started thinking to myself about some things that you can't do while in the comfort zone. I want to share a few of them that came to my mind. Things that you can't do in the comfort zone. In the comfort zone, you can't have high impact. Nobody in a comfort zone who just lives a chill life has high impact on the world. They don't have high impact on other relationships. You don't have high impact. You don't even have a glorious testimony when you live in a comfort zone. I think of people like Peter, who walked on the water, who got out of the comfort zone of the boat and stepped out into a storm. But he had a testimony. And all of the other disciples who saw Peter on the water talking about him because he got out of the comfort zone and got into a storm, they didn't have a testimony. Peter did. If you're outside, if you're in a comfort zone, you can't grow. You don't develop. You don't grow and develop. If you're in a comfort zone, here's something else that you can't do. You don't make history. It means you won't be remembered. Let me state it this way. Be phenomenal or be forgotten. Be phenomenal or be forgotten. You don't make history in the comfort zone. When Joan of Arc went over a hill, and the courage that she had, It bristles something up in the men. She made history because she took herself out of a comfort zone. You got to be able to get out of your comfort zone if you're going to make a mark and do something for Jesus Christ. You really do. In the comfort zone, you'll never have distinction in a comfort zone. You know why? Because the comfort zone is a place of mediocrity. It's your average Joe kind of place. But you have no distinction. Average is never distinct. If a man wants to impress a woman, he doesn't want to take her to an average restaurant with average food and average service. He needs to take her to a place of excellence, something that has a mark of distinction by excellence. If you're in a comfort zone, here's something else you can't do. You can't lead effectively in a comfort zone. Leadership places you in an uncomfortable position because you have to make hard decisions. You have to say no sometimes to good ideas. You can't lead effectively in a comfort zone. Here's something else you can't do I thought about. You cannot innovate change in a comfort zone. Whenever you get ready to innovate change, it makes you uncomfortable. The flesh recoils from change. That's why we like routine. Most people sleep on the same side of the bed. You go to a different hotel, you sleep on the same side of the bed because we don't like change. I just switch it up sometime. I know which side I normally sleep on. And we get into a routine, a groove. If you're in a comfort zone, here's something else you can't do. You can't transcend mediocrity in a comfort zone. You cannot transcend mediocrity. If you want to be able to get beyond just average, and nobody remembers average. Nobody remembers average. Nobody remembers average. Here's something else you can't do in a comfort zone. You can't inspire others because there's nothing inspiring about average. There's nothing inspiring. You don't just see somebody sing in an average way and then become inspired to sing. Average does not inspire, it has no inspiration to it. You can't inspire others in a comfort zone. And then I would dare to say this, I don't believe that you can fulfill the call of God in your life in the comfort zone. Because I believe that God will always call you to do something that will require faith, and faith means that you're in the face of fear. So you have to confront some things. I don't think you can really fulfill God's call of what God has called you to be if you're still in your comfort zone. So I would say this though, don't just be uncomfortable for the sake of being uncomfortable. Don't just be uncomfortable just for the sake of being uncomfortable. I'm not just saying make yourself uncomfortable just for the sake of being uncomfortable. But be careful about being uncomfortable by unwise choices in your relationships. Be very careful about being uncomfortable by unwise choices in your relationships. And this is why I will say this. It is because sometimes hell is not a place, hell is a relationship. Ooh, my God. I hope you understand what I mean by that. Those of you who are in hellish relationships know exactly what I mean. So you might have to explain to somebody around you who's not old enough or experienced enough to know what a hellish relationship looks like. But you know because you were with him or her. But there are some people who are in the VIP section of your life that you need to move to the balcony and let them watch the destiny of God unfold in your life. Touch your neighbor, say, I know what he's talking about. I know what he is talking about in this place. But isn't it interesting how change makes us uncomfortable? But it does. Change makes us uncomfortable. Whenever you have to change, it makes us uncomfortable. And when it comes to changing ourselves, here's the biggest challenge, is that the things that we should do are often boring, uncomfortable, and sometimes downright painful. The things that we should do are oftentimes boring, uncomfortable or downright painful. And it's not that we don't really want to change, we just don't want to do it now. We plan on changing. We going on the diet. We just don't want to do it now. There's a psychologist, David Reed, he took some subjects and he asked them to make out a shopping list. And he found that if they were shopping for what they would eat right now, that 74% of them chose tempting chocolate over healthy fruit. Isn't that interesting? And then he asked them to pick out what they would eat a week from now, and 70% of them chose fruit. And you see, it shows we don't mind changing, we just don't want to do it now. That we'll deal with that later. We'll deal with that later. Most of us have plans for changing tomorrow. Tomorrow. But the time to really make the decision to change is today. And here's the deal. The only reason that we postpone it is because the things that we know that we need to do, we just hate to do them. So we've got to find a way to be able to love to do what we hate doing now. And when that happens, we'll change. We'll change. We'll stop this at a certain time. We've got to find a way to love what we hate doing. You may hate practicing, but it is the practicing that will make you a virtuoso. You got to find a way to love what you hate doing so that you can do it now. Because if it's something that you love to do now, you'll do it at that time. But I would say this: labor for something that matters. Work for something that really matters in your life. Some people work for something that doesn't even matter. I mean, they build something and it doesn't even matter. They work hard and leave their money to a fool. And it doesn't even matter. Work for something that matters. I mean, our children, helping other people, becoming a better person yourself. Work toward having a long-term effect in life. Work on creating a positive legacy. Work on something that matters. Work on something that matters. Do you realize that even words can make us uncomfortable? Somebody can say something to you, you start sweating bullets. Just because of words. Because words sell and words repel. Words lead and words impede. Words heal and words kill. It's amazing. Just words. And not only hearing certain words, but speaking certain words can make us uncomfortable. Have you ever had certain things that could actually make you uncomfortable just saying? Just certain words. I mean, words like, I'm sorry, I was wrong. You know, that's really difficult for a lot of us men. I mean, it really is. We'd rather drink poison. But you'd be surprised how much animosity, how much anger could be relieved if people would just say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Because it takes a big person to apologize without ruining it with an explanation or an excuse. To just say, I was wrong. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Those words are very difficult for a lot of people to say. You'd be surprised. It's very difficult for people to say, forgive me. Forgive me. Just simple words that can bring incredible healing and restoration to relationships, to simply say, forgive me. Forgive me. Difficult words. They make us uncomfortable, but they produce healing. They produce reconciliation. Just simply saying, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Forgive me. Even to say this, I forgive you. Because sometimes people are like, you know what you did. And you know how there are some people that'll try to be spiritual and say, I forgive you, but I ain't gonna forget it. And when they tell you that they're not going to forget it, it's almost as though there is such acrimony in those words that they're really saying that I really don't forgive you. Because what you did is so hard. I'm trying to do it because I know that's a Christian thing that I'm supposed to be trying to do. I'm telling you, forgiveness is one of those things that will make you uncomfortable. And that's why Jesus said if somebody offends you 7 times 70 in a day. I mean, he made them really uncomfortable. And then, I mean, it was so hard what he was saying to them. They said, Lord, increase our faith. They said, we got to, you're going to have to do something here. You're going to have to do something. Just to say, I forgive you. I forgive you. To say the words, forgive me. Forgive me. I forgive you. Here's something very difficult. And this is extremely difficult for a husband to say to his wife, you're right. Can you imagine? There are some women that are still waiting to hear those words. I mean, she'll tell him something, and then she'll just sit over there. She won't say anything because she knows it will start some trouble if she said, I told you so. She's thinking that her whole attitude is screaming it. Told you so, told you so, told you. I told you should have stopped and asked for direction. I told you. She'll just be looking around because she... So difficult for us to just say the words, you're right. You'd be surprised how uncomfortable these words make people feel. I love you. I love you. Just those words. I love you. 3 simple words, but they have such complexity in them, such depth of meaning, that there are some folks that are still waiting for people to hear those words. Because people, you know, men, we just tell you, you know, you all right. Interestingly enough, there are some people that have trouble with these 2 words, thank you. You'd be surprised how those 2 little words, thank you, can revolutionize things. There are so many jobs that people do and they're never appreciated in what they do. They're never appreciated in what they do. I recognize when people do a good job. I want to acknowledge that. I don't care whether it's a waiter in a restaurant. I don't care whether it's a flight attendant on an airplane, whether it's a bellhop in a hotel. I want to be able to acknowledge their humanity and the excellence of their effort, because excellence is never an accident. When people serve you, thank them. I mean, I don't care whether it's at McDonald's, Burger King, Chick-fil-A, wherever. Thank them, because you know they could do something nasty. Express your thanks to people. It seems, you know, there are some people who are so negative that you do stuff for them and they won't even have the decency to tell you thank you. You know why? Because they expected you to do more. And he who is not thankful for the little bit disqualifies himself for more. Gratitude is a bridge over which future blessings will be brought into your life. And so just to be able to say thank you. You remember Jesus healed 10 lepers? How many came back? Only 1. Leprosy was a death sentence of being ostracized in your community. And Jesus heals you of a chronic disease. Was oftentimes fatal, and he healed 9 of them who didn't have the decency to come back and say thank you. I pray that you are sensitized to the degree that when people serve you, that you have the human decency to simply say thank you. We can be so busy that people are bringing us water or tea or whatever it is, and we're on our telephone, we're talking, and we don't even stop to turn to that human being and acknowledge this is a person. I mean, folks that are serving our little demons, I mean, our children.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.